Definitely, you bring up this very crucial issue of language and how they steal language, how they use words, how they use imagery. And also we keep an eye on the spiritual war and how it's done. So I'll just kind of throw this out there. I often think about how the Lord, our Lord, gave us the rainbow after the flood and what the rainbow represented. But guess what movement and ideology took the rainbow and mutated it into something that means something else? When Jesus at the Last Supper, and I think it was at the Last Supper, but he was saying, "This is my body, which will be offered up for you." My body. And we know what that means and represents in terms of Christ. And then all of a sudden in the pro-choice movement, we see my body, my choice. It's kind of like a twist. And there's some theologians that say that this is the way that the demons want to hurt the Father. But they play with these words. They play with the imagery. Even in terms of mood and what it says, like I remember I studied exorcism for a while, which was a very scary thing. And I regretted I studied it a little bit because you have to be spiritually equipped. It scares you very much, but I don't regret it in the sense of that so much of what was frightening there confirmed the reality of Jesus Christ and how afraid and terrified the demons are of Jesus and even the mentioning of his name. Now, I'm not, it might seem like I'm rambling here, but I'm getting here to something. So they say, and the theologians and the exorcists were saying that before the exorcism, a lot of the possessed that were about to be exorcised, were going to be the target of the criticism of the exorcism, they would engage in a lot of frivolity. That everything's cool, everything's all right. And they would say to the priest, "Hey, you want a coffee double? You want sugar? They put on this facade of frivolity that everything is great, right? And we see this in the left a lot in terms of their disposition. I remember many years ago, I don't attend these things, these LGBT parades or whatever. This is not really my thing. And I try to avoid it, but I can't remember. Somehow, for some reason, I was there geographically and they were, there was this parade or something, but I remember they had these water guns and there was a group of us and we weren't really into this thing and they could tell that we weren't. And they began to squirt us with the water gun going, "Lighten up." And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget being told to lighten up because I'm the miserable one. I'm the one that's behind the tide. And they're on the curve of human history. They're on the cutting edge of progress and happiness. And we're just these miserable people in the past. Let me just put all that together, what I'm saying here, because it's connected to what you're saying. They're not just playing with language. They also play with the mood and the disposition. And we're the happy ones. We're the ones on the cutting edge of progress. And you're way behind and miserable and stuck in the past. They're very clever in all these maneuverings, aren't they?
Well, they seem to be. It's only in the last few days that they've decided that they're the party of joy, right?
Yeah. Just sec. I'm so sorry. I just want to be careful with my language. They think they're clever.
Oh, right.
And they think they're clever, and they're clever in how they manipulate many people. But I want to emphasize that they're not clever at all when it comes to the long term and to the real situation. Yeah, but go ahead.
Right. Just in the last 2 days, they've become the party of joy, right?
You're right.
I mean, by the last 4 years, they were joyful. And let's face it, any group of conservatives who have a get together are going to have a lot more fun than any group of liberals. The liberals, in my experience, are sour, bitter, angry. They're frustrated, and but you're about the language though, and this is interesting. In my book, Ashley, the Untold Story of the Women of January 6th, I dived into, because I have a language background. I have a PhD. I kind of spent a lot of time in those quarters. I did a chapter called Shibboleths. And do you know what a shibboleth is, Jamie? Familiar with that term? It comes right out of the Old Testament. And what happened, and my knowledge, I'm a Catholic, so we don't study the Bible really. I confess in advance, but and some chapter of the Old Testament, shibboleth was a word that the Israelites could say, but their enemies could not. So if you were trying to infiltrate, right, and they'd say to you, say shibboleth, and they would say, then they'd have to execute them or imprison them or whatever. So it's the word that insiders know that outsiders don't know. So the insiders create their own language. Thus, they create, and their own symbols, like you say with the rainbow. They create words like marriage equality and reproductive rights and gender affirming care. How's that one, right?
Yeah.
But in the run up to the 2020,
and of course, and anybody that doesn't agree with them, racist, fascist, homophobe, transphobe, etc., etc. But go ahead.
And after the election of 2020, they went into overdrive. So I mean, even before that, because for us, voter integrity, they term voter suppression, right? You want to see your driver's license, they say, well, that's voter suppression. We say it's voter integrity. Immediately after the election, they coined the phrase the big lie to challenge what was obviously the shoddiest election in anyone's memory, became the big lie. Their term of art, their shibboleth became free and fair, right? And then they would go so far as to say the most free and fair election in American history. I mean, they'd say things like that. Abraham Lincoln knew the election results on the night of 1860. Before he went to bed, he knew the election results, right? And all they had then was pencil, paper, and telegraphs. And then on the day of January 6th, the phrase insurrection was in common parlance by 2 p.m.
Yeah.
By 6 p.m., the George Bush Center was putting out a formal statement denouncing the insurrection.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney was at the microphones by 4, denouncing the insurrection.
Yeah.
The term was always inappropriate, wildly inappropriate, defamatory, but and I don't say let them get away with it, because most of us fight it at every turn. They've dropped the phrase insurrection. It does its share of damage in the interim.